Nokia, how the king of mobile lost its crown. The golden era. If you were alive in the late 90s or the early 2000s, you didn't just have a phone. You had a Nokia. Think back to the year 2000. The Nokia 3310 has just launched. It is a brick of plastic and silicon that feels like it could survive a nuclear blast. You're playing Snake 2 under your desk at school. You aren't worried about battery life because, frankly, you only charge the thing once a week. At that moment, Nokia wasn't just a company, it was the undisputed king of the digital world. Based in the quiet town of Espoo, Finland, this former paper and rubber company had done the unthinkable. They had captured 40% of the global mobile market. 4 out of every 4 phones on the planet carried that simple blue logo. They were the innovators. They gave us the first internal antenna, the first mobile browser, and the first phone with a camera. They were untouchable, or so they thought. The fatal blind spot. So, how does a company that owns nearly half the world's market vanish from the pockets of billions in less than a decade? The year is 2007. Nokia is at its absolute peak. Their profits are record-breaking. But on a stage in San Francisco, a man in a black turtleneck holds up a piece of glass. Steve Jobs introduces the iPhone. Now, here's the great irony. Nokia saw the iPhone coming. In fact, Nokia's R&D labs had already built a touchscreen, internet-ready prototype years before Apple. But the leadership in Finland looked at the iPhone and laughed. They saw a device with poor call quality, no 2G support, and a battery that barely lasted a day. They thought people wanted phones that could do a few smart things. They didn't realize the world wanted computers that could happen to make phone calls. Nokia was suffering from the innovator's dilemma. They were so successful at making hardware, the buttons, the plastic, the durability, that they couldn't see that the future was shifting towards software. While Nokia focused on how the phone felt in your hand, Apple and a young startup called Google were focusing on how the phone felt in your mind. The Symbian trap and internal war. As Apple took off and Android began to spread like wildfire, Nokia tried to fight back. Their weapon? An operating system called Symbian. If you ever used an old Nokia smartphone, you remember Symbian. It was powerful, but it was a mess. It was built for an era before apps, and for developers, it was a nightmare to code for. It took nearly 2 days to do a task on Symbian that took 10 minutes on Apple's iOS. Inside Nokia, the culture was fracturing. Because the company was so large, it had become a slow-moving bureaucracy. Teams were competing against each other rather than the external competition. Middle managers were reportedly afraid to tell the executives the truth that their software was failing. By the time Nokia realized Symbian was a sinking ship, it was 2010. They were already 3 years behind. In the tech world, 3 years is an eternity. The burning platform. Enter Stephen Elop. In 2010, he became the first non-Finnish CEO of Nokia. He arrived to find a company in flames. In early 2011, Elop sent what is now the most famous internal memo in corporate history, the Burning Platform Memo. He told his employees that Nokia was like a man standing on a burning oil rig in the middle of the North Sea. He had 2 choices, stay and burn, or jump into the freezing, dark waters. Nokia jumped. But instead of jumping toward Android, which was already winning the war, Nokia made a desperate, exclusive bet. They partnered with Microsoft to use the Windows Phone operating system. It was a marriage of 2 laggards. Microsoft was late to mobile, and Nokia was late to everything else. The Windows Phone interface was actually beautiful and fast, but it had one fatal flaw. It had no apps. You couldn't get Instagram, you couldn't get YouTube. In a world where there's an app for that was the gold standard, Nokia was selling a beautiful house with no furniture inside.
the fall and the fire sale. The decline was dizzying. Market share didn't just dip, it evaporated. In 2013, the inevitable happened. Nokia, the pride of Finland, the company that once accounted for 4% of its country's entire GDP, sold its mobile phone business to Microsoft for roughly $7 billion. To put that in perspective, Nokia was once worth over $250 billion. They sold their crown jewels for pennies on the dollar. A year later, the Nokia name began to disappear from smartphones, replaced by the Microsoft Lumia brand. The king was officially dead. But here's the twist: the story didn't end there. Today, in 2026, Nokia is actually a thriving multi-billion-dollar company again. But they don't care about the phone in your pocket. They care about the towers that connect it. They pivoted to become a global leader in 5G and network infrastructure. They learned the hard way that if you don't evolve, you disappear. Conclusion: lessons from the crown. So what is the legacy of Nokia? It's a story of arrogance versus agility. It's a reminder that no matter how big you are, no matter how many millions of people love your product, you are never more than one missed revolution away from irrelevance. Nokia didn't fail because they made bad phones. They failed because they stopped imagining what a phone could be. They were the king of the old world, and when the new world arrived, they didn't have a map. The next time you hear that familiar ringtone, don't just think of a durable phone. Think of it as a cautionary tale. In the world of technology, the only constant is change, and even a crown made of granite can crumble if it refuses to turn with the tide.